Hi, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another recommendations video. If you haven't seen one of these before, you're in for a treat. In these videos, I ask you personally on Instagram what you would like to be recommended, and then it's pretty simple. I tailor the answer around you and I watch a ton of films trying to find some hidden gems. It's important that I give a shout out to my friend and patron, Megan, who helped me compile a list of everything I've mentioned before in these recommendations videos. I think I've done 5 or 6 before, and I want to make sure I don't do any repeats. I get asked really similar questions each time, so if there is an obvious answer that I'm not saying, it's probably because I've said it before and I want to give you guys different content every time and not just repeat the same films over and over. Anyone can do that. I want to make sure I'm giving you hidden gems or films you haven't heard of or films you haven't thought about in that kind of way. So no repeats in this video. These are all films I haven't spoken about before in recommendation videos. Lastly, I do want to address that I'm in this location today because of my dog Gromit. Some of you know he unfortunately fractured his ankle recently and he's just had surgery, so I have to keep an eye on him at all times, and he's sleeping on the ground over here. I can't take him downstairs to my office. So with that all to the side, let's jump in. And of course, because I want to thank Megan for helping me out with the list so I did not repeat anything, I'm starting with a question from Megan, who asked for mystery horrors. I have a great one for you, and it is Forgotten, which is a South Korean horror that is on Netflix. Forgotten is a horror mystery thriller about a young man whose life is turned upside down when his brother is kidnapped and returned a day later without any memory. This film is impossible to predict, and I promise you the twists don't stop until the final act. It's a great underrated mystery film, and as I said, it's available on most countries' Netflix. I See You is another Netflix gem, and it's one that got a lot of love last year for being a hidden gem. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. It stars Helen Hunt, and the film is about a boy that disappears in a small town. But nothing is what it seems. It's a chilling crime horror that is so unexpected, and it will leave you speechless, guaranteed. The Vigil is also a great mystery, and it missed its grand entrance due to the pandemic. It's one of the more unique Blumhouse experiences. The horror mystery thriller is about a man who must watch over a body of a man who was part of the Orthodox Jewish community. His job is to make sure that his soul is safe from evil. It's a solid bump in the night mystery. Next, Liam Lives On asks for films that deal with fear, like Dread from 2009. And if you haven't seen Dread, I know Liam's seen it, but if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's very unique. I've picked some films that deal with the fear of dying because I thought that is really dreadful. What do you call that? It's encompassing dread. So here we go. Right at the top is We Go On from 2016, and it's about a man who is crippled by his fear of death, and he places an advert in a newspaper offering a reward for evidence of the afterlife. This is an independent film that is incredibly unique and chilling, just what you're looking for. She Dies Tomorrow from last year was a hit or miss with a lot of people, but it really focused on the contagious fear of one's death. It's a strange, ambiguous film with a lot of interesting guest appearances, including Adam Wingard and Michelle Rodriguez. But be careful because, as I said, fear is contagious. And of course, if none of those tickle your fancy, why not chuck on any version of It? Pennywise is all about driving someone insane with their own fear, manifesting it, and creating the ideal situation for someone to sweat. Why? Because it's described that our fears salt our meat and make us tastier for him. Yikes. Next, Ella asked me for my favorite folk horror film, and without any doubts, it is November from 2017. It's a magical Estonian horror drama fantasy about a poor village where peasants must use folk magic to survive the winter and a love triangle that's deadly. It's a seriously underrated and magical journey where every aspect is beautifully haunted, from the cursed storyline to the cinematography. Hagazusa, I swear that's the pronunciation they gave me, is another folk horror film that is lesser known. The slow burn drama horror is the dark legend of a goat herder who has been shunned by her town and finds herself vulnerable and surrounded by a dark presence. The atmosphere alone is breathtaking. This film is full of themes of paranoia and superstition. Next, Lucille has asked for abduction and captivity horror. Of course, the one film I always want to say is Room. I think that that is the best captivity film ever made, but it's not really horror, but if you haven't seen it, of course, go with that one every time. It will break your heart and it's just perfect. But if I had to pick horror, I would definitely go with Chained from 2012. Chained is a really messed up story about abduction and captivity, which deals with some really heavy subject matter. Directed by Jennifer Lynch, the film is about a boy who was held prisoner by a cab driver, and he must now follow his rules to survive both physically and mentally. The film poses questions to the audience about their understanding of the intensity of the situation and what toll it really has on its victim. It's a great watch that will really stick with you. And just as you thought it couldn't get any darker, meet Austrian film Michael. This is more on the drama thriller side, but it's a lot darker than Chained because it deals with SA. The film is about a sick man who keeps a 10-year-old boy in his basement. It's a stomach-turning film that isn't for everyone. It's very disturbing and heartbreaking. Next, I was asked for mockumentary type films, and I have plenty. Antrim, or its full title, Antrim, the Deadliest Film Ever Made, is a mockumentary about a cursed film that was released in the late 70s. It's rumored that those who watch the film will die. Part of the film is about the search for the movie and interviewing people about its origin, but then the bulk of the film is what allegedly is the only copy of the movie in existence. It's an interesting twist on both cursed films and the found footage mockumentary style. What We Do in the Shadows is a New Zealand horror comedy mockumentary. The movie follows stereotypes of vampires living together in an apartment in Wellington. The style isn't just mockumentary, but it's almost like a spin on reality TV. It's one of the best horror comedies of the last 10 years, with a Rotten Tomatoes approval rating of 96% and an IMDb score of 7.7. And the movie did so well that they created a follow-up TV series which has been a smash hit with an IMDb rating of 8.5. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon is yet another comedy horror thriller, but this one is particularly praised for its originality. The movie puts a spin on the slasher subgenre as a documentary crew follow the behind the scenes of a serial killer who is obsessed with modeling himself after the villains in slasher films. But probably the most successful mockumentary of all time, yes, even more so than the Blair Witch, is Ghost Watch. It was modeled as a BBC special investigation into the supernatural, and it premiered on TV across the UK with the viewers believing that it was indeed a real documentary lifestyle special. And what starts as an investigation into one of the most haunted houses in Britain soon turns into full-blown terror. And when I say that Ghost Watch is arguably the most successful mockumentary, it's not because of how much money it racked up. It's because of the profound effect it had on its audiences and the masses of people that tuned in that night unknowing to what was going down. The reason the show was so successful was because they used well-known and trusted TV personalities such as Michael Parkinson. And most people tuned in late, missing the written by title at the beginning. It was meant to look like a live cross, so that's what the viewers believed. The show earned the title of being the first TV program to be published in the British Medical Journal for having caused PTSD in children. It's obviously not that scary watching it now. It's not the same effect, but it's definitely worth a watch. Jaded asks for more true crime. A horror movie I would recommend for its interesting portrayal of true crime is Angst. You can find this one on Tubi in some countries as well, America being one. The film is a first-person account of a serial killer being released from prison and his inner thoughts as he finds his next victims. It's a disturbing Austrian film based on the real-life case of a mass murderer. I'll put his name on screen. And the narration, which is in the killer's voice, takes quotes from real-life confessions of convicted murderers. Next, I was asked for a different take on alien films, and I kind of used a little bit of a loophole, but I think that these all definitely fit that niche. Maybe you just didn't think of them like this. Am I being tricky? I don't know. The first one is Brightburn. This isn't just about a superhero gone bad. No, it's about a child from another planet. Yep. That's an alien. He crash landed on Earth and is having problems fitting into human life, and as he grows, his otherworldly powers are revealed as he rebels against humanity. Sputnik is also a spin on the alien tale, a Russian drama horror sci-fi about a woman who was brought in to assess a cosmonaut who brought something back to Earth with him. It's pretty straightforward, but the way the creature is presented is both mysterious and original. And of course, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This is is my favorite B-grade movie. This comedy horror flips the alien subgenre on its head. Move over Martians and Greys. Killer clowns are the new superior life form. The film is about a small town which is invaded by these killer alien clowns who are armed with shadow puppets and water guns. And they plan to turn people into fairy floss cocoons. If you didn't know, fairy floss is what we call candy floss in Australia. Very cute, right? They're all about harvesting the blood, and it's a fun, colorful adventure. And of course, I don't want to double up, but I just want to say really quickly, if you haven't seen Communion, I have mentioned it in one of these videos before, but I'm just mentioning it on the side. It stars Christopher Walken and it's based on a true story. You need to watch it. It is the most breathtaking, alarming portrayal of an alien life form. Check it out. Next, Awkward Veronica Photo asked me for horror movies with plants, and I feel like everyone keeps baiting me for The Happening.
You like hot dogs, don't you?
No, stop. Do you like hot dogs though? I don't know. In all seriousness, I hadn't seen Little Shop of Horrors until last year. Of course, I'm talking about the 80s version, which has one of the most charming killer plants. The film is about a florist who discovers that his new prized exotic plant has a craving for human blood. It's a beautifully done musical, and if you have seen it but you haven't seen the alternative ending, definitely check it out. It ends a little bit more tragically. It's pretty insane. But when you said plants, the first thing that popped into my head was one of my favorite Creepshow segments, Weeds, known as The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill. The 80s film is an anthology, and the segment is based on the Stephen King story Weeds, and it actually stars King himself as the lead, a countryman who discovers a meteorite on his farm. But when he approaches it, he catches an unworldly parasite which appears as a plant-like organism. And on the more serious side, Annihilation from 2018 is one of the most beautiful films you'll ever see. The film is about a group of experts who sign up to go on a dangerous expedition into a mysterious environmental disaster zone. The group is made up of a biologist, anthropologist, psychologist, surveyor, and linguist. But as they explore deeper into the unknown, they soon become aware of the danger they are surrounded by. The film is laid with a deep story about loss. It's both stunning and terrifying at the same time, and will leave you with profound heartbreak. Ashmont asked me for 70s hidden gems, and I have a bunch for you. The other is a film I rarely see mentioned. It could be because the plot is very predictable given the way it's been played out to death over the last 20 years, which is a shame because at the time it would have been so surprising. But the 70s film still does hold up with its dread-filled atmosphere paired with its whistling, creepy score. The film is about brothers who have learned how to play a dangerous game with their mind and the consequences that it has on their family and the surrounding farms. As I said, the whole plot is very obvious, but the end was so brutal and it really took me by surprise. The Asphinx is a story about a scientist who becomes obsessed with immortality and the idea of bottling up the spirit of the dead, also known as the Asphinx. The film has some, well, really 70s graphics, but its premise is genuinely terrifying. Deathline, also known as Raw Meat, is a twisted horror story. The British film is set in the London tunnels where several reports of missing people have been made in the same location. But a young couple soon finds themselves victims to the truth. The film has some really interesting roaming camera work, cool props, and interesting sound design. It's a dark gem that could have inspired many modern movies on the same subject. Lastly, Phantom Gingerhead asked me for some lesser known psychological horrors. This is actually quite hard because I think that's really my jam. That's what I like, and I feel like they get talked about quite a lot, but I did find one that was quite surprising. I had never heard of this before. It's called Chasing Sleep. Chasing Sleep is a psychological horror mystery that is not what it seems. It's an ambiguous journey starring Jeff Daniels as Ed, a man whose wife never returns home from work, and he now has to deal with the mystery while awaiting her return. At first, the film seems like a very straightforward drama, but it has some really surprising, actually shocking, I would say shocking, horrific moments. Again, it's very ambiguous, and it's worth a second viewing just to put the pieces together. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I had hundreds of questions, but I just picked out a few I hadn't answered before. If you do want to be part of these in the future, let me know that you like them by giving this video a thumbs up. It does help me know what you guys want to see, what you want to see more of. And secondly, follow me on Instagram. It's the easiest way I can collect those answers. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am nearly at 80,000 subscribers, which is amazing. When I hit 80,000, I have a really special live stream planned. It's going to involve a game, a tournament that is gonna make people's blood boil. It's gonna get people really riled up and really hyped up, so I'm very excited to do that with you guys. I'll make sure to post any information about that on my socials and on my community tab. If you do like my channel, make sure to subscribe. I do 2 videos every single week talking about horror movies and thrillers, and just as this video, giving you a lot of recommendations. Again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure to click the notification bell. I never say that, but it does help. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day and week and year. Stay safe and stay spooky.